as they see. The poor then become more than some abstract idea, concept, a demographic entity removed from our own experiences. And it seems very similar to me to be the message that the new Pope Francis is preaching all around the world and gaining quite a lot of attention. To see the world through the eyes of the poor. And this leads to the second beatitude. It focuses attention from the inward to the outward. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Disciples who are poor in spirit, who have turned their attention away from themselves, now turn their attention to the world and begin to see it as it currently is. A world in pain, a world in violence, where selfish desire of sin dehumanizes people. A world that has given up hope of redemption. Those who mourn are blessed, because they are able to enter into the world's pain and grief and are not afraid to go there. Now you synthesize these two together and you get the third beatitude. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. We tend to think of meek as wimpiness, as though our lives could be written like Diary of a Wimpy Christian. But here, meekness is a combination of the previous two beatitudes. The power and decisiveness of self-denial in the poor in spirit, and the passion for the pain of the world in those who mourn, those who both want nothing from the world at the same time are willing to share everything with it. These are what Jesus calls the meek. And that makes for a powerful combination and are the most formidable persons on earth. It's what I call fanatical meek. They are fanatical on one extreme because they want nothing, so they can not be tempted or bought. And yet they're fanatical on the other extreme because they are willing to go to any length, even death itself, on behalf of someone else. Now the second set of beatitudes, the second group of three. Let's go there. Now you got to keep that first one in mind. So with the image of the fanatical meek still fresh in your minds, Jesus then turns to another set of beatitudes. It's the same kind of a pattern that they build up on each other, though. Let's see. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. And blessed are the pure in heart. Whereas the first three beatitudes gave us a pattern for emptying ourselves, this group of beatitudes gives us a pattern with which we can fill ourselves. To start off, another way of translating the Greek word righteousness is to use the word justice. Same Greek root word, justice. And justice takes the meaning of righteousness out of the realm of the individual and into the realm of the whole world. The people of God's world aren't just those who do good. They do good for a purpose, to bring about God's justice in the world. In other words, they are those who see their lives within the context of God's larger mission of redeeming the whole world. They do the will of God, but they see God's will as being bigger than just themselves. They're less focused on justifying themselves than participating in God's justice for those who need it most. But righteousness by itself, as you know, can easily turn into Pharisaic self-righteousness. And that's why we need the balance of this second beatitude in this second group. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Those who have hungered and thirsted for God's justice must begin to show mercy to those who need that justice the most. Now, when you get the passion for justice and the compassion for mercy together, you become the pure in heart, or what can also be translated, the undivided in heart. That's in the third beatitude of this group. These are the ones who are blessed to see God, because they see the movement of God and the purpose of God in every single person. They see God everywhere because they are always looking for ways in which to live out God's purpose through obedience and mercy and service and love. They see God the way Jesus said they would see God, in the face of the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the stranger, the least, the lost, the last, just like we read from a few weeks ago in Matthew 25. Now let's go to the final set, the third set of three. Blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are those who are persecuted, and blessed are you when people insult you. Take the meek who want nothing from the world. That's that third beatitude, the last one of the first group. Take the meek who want nothing from the world, and the pure in heart who want nothing but God. That's the last one in the second group. And put them together, and you get peacemakers. The peacemakers are the ones who are resolute and active in their pursuit of reconciliation and justice between human conflicts on all levels, whether the conflicts is with families or races or cultures or countries. Jesus says that if you're a peacemaker, you are blessed. And he goes on to say, if you're a persecuted peacemaker, you are blessed. History tells us that anyone who acts as a peacemaker will usually become one of those who are persecuted. And Jesus is probably the ultimate example of that truth. As E. Stanley Jones put it, peacemakers must get used to the sight of their own blood, because Jesus makes it perfectly clear that working for the sake of good news can get you into trouble. Being blessed is challenging and even risky business. And then Jesus wraps up it all by saying, if you're a peacemaker, if you're a persecuted peacemaker, if you're a lied about, trash talk, persecuted peacemaker, well then basically you can start rejoicing. I read it right. Rejoicing. The fruit of living a peacemaking, persecuted life, even a life that embodies all the qualities that Jesus itemizes in this list that we call the Beatitudes, is joy. Persecuted peacemakers in particular can rejoice because they're persecuted for doing something worth persecuting. They rejoice because they are walking directly in the footsteps of Jesus and the prophets. They rejoice because their peacemaking, even if it costs them their own blood, is making change possible. These are the characteristics, 9 of them, building one upon the other, right there in what we call the Beatitude that Jesus lists for his disciples. He lists for all followers, for you and me, as he redefines what it means to be a citizen in God's new world and what it means for us to be blessed. The meaningfulness of our response to this particular teaching of Jesus starts with our recognition of and our thanksgiving for the way God blesses those who are in need and blesses those who help and blesses those who pay a price for helping. I have visited the Chapel of the Beatitudes. It's on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee. It's on the hill, very beautiful area, a very, very small building. It's 8-sided. We had a group of about 14 of us. It was a pilgrimage that ministers went on. And do you remember last week when I asked you the question, where have you taken communion at the Lord's table that was one of the most meaningful that you've ever done? That's the place I was thinking about. Because we were in this little tiny chapel. It probably couldn't hold 30 people. And we had communion together in total silence. Just going through the motions of the words of institution. And we took our time. And while we did so, we read each of the panels on the 8-sided wall, and then one on the communion table. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those persecuted for the sake of justice for Jesus. Love your enemies. Be as compassionate as God. It was a special moment for me. And after the communion, we got up separately. And I remember walking out on this little balcony, looking straight in the distance at the Sea of Galilee. And that's where it suddenly dawned on me. And that's where we're going to start next week. When we continue this series, Please Pass the Salt. Amen.